This next interview is a CNBC interview after the Voyager and BlockFi bailouts.
In FinTech conference with a special guest that I just tweeted about, Bob. Good stuff.
Yeah, very excited to talk to Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX. Of course, this is the Piper Sandler conference. You heard from, it's heard there just recently. Important thing is, all of the exchanges want to interact with the crypto community, but there's been issues out there. There's been regulatory issues. We're trying to clear that up now. Sam, thanks for joining us. You've been regaling us this morning with stories about the crypto community. Let's just talk about the 30,000-foot view here. Where are we right now with crypto?
Is he freezing? Is he in Iceland right now, or is this dude just loaded on some stimulant medication that I don't think he's prescribed to?
Valuations have pulled back rather dramatically. Why have they pulled back, and are we at some kind of bottom?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think if you look at what Bitcoin has done since the peak, it's very similar to what NASDAQ has done. They're both down, about 50% roughly from where they were, 8 months ago, which I think tells you a lot about what's happened to crypto, to tech, and to market.
Sorry. So he is so loaded right now. His pupils are so dilated. He's like,
just like, the thing is that, what we've done, it's insane.
Because I know there's articles about, like, his girlfriend Caroline talked about amphetamines. There's that Twitter thing. I'll put it right there. Just pause the video, read that. Who knows what this guy was doing?
It's all been driven by monetary policy. It's all been driven by expectations, driven by the Fed of increased interest rate, which has caused basically a dollar rallying and
I'm kind of curious,
of everything else against that.
Does the medication make it easier for him to lie? Is he better at it? He's more calculated when he's on a lot of amphetamines? Because he seemed a little toned down. He seemed
my goal has been to
terrified when he was before Congress. This is a confident guy who's like,
I am literally a genius. I'm gonna say it,
These are two different people in terms of what I'm noticing. But he is just clearly high right now.
Are you blaming all this on the Fed? I mean, Bitcoin's had huge moves up before, long before the Fed moved in. So we've had bubbles in Bitcoin before.
Oh, we absolutely have. And some of those have clearly been driven by crypto-specific flow. This one in particular, I think, was mostly driven by the Fed. I don't know if it's good or bad. Maybe it had to happen.
One of the reasons the exchanges have been reluctant to interact with the crypto community has been the uncertainty around the regulatory situation. Now, Senators Gillibrand and Loomis just introduced the bill, and it looks very clear to me that the CFTC in their bill is going to be the primary.
I don't want this to be a thing like, is Sam Bankman-Fried a drug addict? But I'm noticing also he's like kind of doing stuff with his mouth, which is an indicator of heavy stimulant use. Grinding of teeth and like clenching, things of that nature. So it's just another random thing.
So I think getting regulatory clarity is huge, and I think it's good for everyone. I think it gives customer protection that we're missing right now, real federal oversight, protection against financial crimes, against systemic risk, and at the same time allows the industry to move back onshore and bring real liquidity to U.S. markets. So I think it's a win-win to have federal oversight. From my perspective, look, it could come from the SEC, it could come from the CFTC, or some combination. The important thing is that it happens. So I welcome the efforts, from the Cinema Gillibrand, the Loomis Gillibrand effort there. The efforts that I know a number of other people have been putting in.
Is the CFTC a more sympathetic audience, do you think? The crypto community seems to think so.
So they've certainly had more experience, I think, with the asset class. When you look at, Bitcoin futures have been live on CFTC venues for a few years. So I think that they've built up a lot of knowledge about the industry, and I think they've been engaging a lot with the...
It's interesting. He's not really blinking a lot, which is super strange because the shaking, that's a contradiction to the intense shaking of his legs, because blinking is a sign of stimulant use, mainly like cocaine and shit. But he's not blinking, which also means, what if he's past that point? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Industry and community over the last year or so, and have built up some sympathy there. Again, in the end, what matters to me is the policy rather than whatever agency is behind it. But I definitely think that they've been taking.
He thinks he's so dope. What matters to me is the policy rather than he thinks he's hot.
A really constructive approach.
My colleagues
and whatever agency is behind it, but I definitely think that they've been taking a really constructive approach.
My colleague Scott Wampler has a question. Scott.
Hey, Sam, it's good to have you on our program. And to note, I mean, you're speaking now directly to a pretty hardcore investor and trader viewership. And I want to ask you a question along those lines as to whether you think some of the claims made by by people.
But he's really confident.
Some of the more grandiose, if you will, claims about Bitcoin that, let's say, it's going to replace the dollar, or some of the other things that we've heard, have hurt the legitimate case for Bitcoin. How would you respond to that?
So much head nodding.
Claims about Bitcoin that, let's say, it's going to replace the dollar, or some of the other things that we've heard.
The nodding is interesting to me, and the hand gestures, because he's clearly, it seems either he's very just confident, like I'm a genius mother, and I'm conning all you guys, and I'm literally the king of the world kind of a thing, or
let me think, like,
he's trying to think of something, what to say. He's trying to think of a calculated response potentially, and using the hands as a distraction. Like, those are things he wasn't doing before. In the other interview when he was talking to Congress, he was like kind of hunched over in a weird way. It's just so interesting. Maybe he's trying. Oh my gosh, here, because this is a CNBC interview, he's trying to appear very confident, like he knows what he's talking about. It's like,
yeah. I'm a billionaire. You guys, you should, if you're smart, you'll give me your money,
kind of a thing, because that's who's watching this. That's gonna help him the most, acting like a very confident mother. And when he's talking to U.S. Congress, it plays way better in terms of psychology to literally just be like, my goal is to help the world and create as much of a maximum impact as that I can. And there are some illegal things going on. Like that. Could it be on purpose? Him portraying different body language, different energy levels. Same voice, though. Same voice.
SBF, the SBF voice.
Have hurt the legitimate case for Bitcoin. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely true. And I think that in general, it can be tempting in the moment to try and claim, everything under the sun, but that's not going to reflect well in the end. And I think it's a lot more productive to claim what is actually there. And I think there's a ton that blockchain and crypto can help with in terms of modernizing
settlement. Where's he looking? I'm sorry, this is probably nothing, but he's just like, well, also that when you're doing an interview, you look at the camera, like, or they tell you where to look.
Under the sun, but that's not going to reflect well in the end. And I think it's a lot more productive to claim what is actually there. And I think there's a ton that blockchain and crypto can help with in terms of modernizing settlement, payments.
It's almost like he can't stay focused just at one thing. It's like he's too all over the place.
Transfers, having real stores of value, especially in countries that don't have good ones right now. But I think claiming that every new cryptocurrency is going to transform some new area of the world undersells the legitimate case.
Also, I did notice that he was doing a fair amount of, which suggests dry mouth, which is another indicator. He needs water. Stimulants dehydrate you. The question is, how much was he on? What was he on? And when did he start?